Okay, so now that we have created a input field, select options, a checkbox, and a radio button, there are just few more things that are remaining that you generally see on a selection screen of any ABAP window, and that is I think one is a list box, and the most important thing is a button on which you do any action. So let's see how we can create a button and a list box. So for creating a button, the most important thing is that you have to define from where the button is going to start. So ultimately, when you create a button, all you do is you defines the place, the dimensions on which you create, on which you want your button to be there. So to define a button, the keyword is used as selection screen double colon begin of line. Now begin of line will tell the system that I have my checkbox, I have my radio button, and the line right after the radio button is going to have my push button, is going to have my button. So you would say selection screen begin of line, and then the keyword would be push button, and now you would define the place, the dimensions on which the push button needs to be there. So you would say this 2 and bracket and 10 defines that from the first place of the screen in this line, this is a new line that I'm creating. So I'm saying begin of line, and then after 2 character I want a push button which is of length 10 character. So when I say push button, I say push button, and then my my dimension I want from the second place on the line to the 10th place, to the 12th actually. So 10 plus 2 is 12. So I want my button to be displayed from the second spot on the line to the 10th. So it would be like from the start it's till 12th point. So and you would understand it more once you see how button is coming. So I have said that push button 2, and then from the second spot I want a 10 character long push button. Now then the next keyword is the text that is going to be displayed on the push button. So I would say text 003. Text is the keyword again with hyphen and the number. This whole big makes a keyword, and the hyphen, the number is nothing but is the text symbol which you create by double clicking and moving into the forward navigation. And then the other keyword is the user command. So once you now what I'm telling to the system is that okay, I have a push button that is from the second spot on the line to the 10th spot. This is the length. The text is going to be text 003, and once you click on it, there would be a user command that would be CL1. Now this user command is going to be my keyword to work on this action. Now once I code, I would code if the action is CL1, do this. You know what I mean? I'm telling the system that this is the action. Once you press a keyword, the action would be CL1, and then if CL1 is the action, do something. Now I want 2 push buttons to be displayed, so I would say push button. Now the second push button would be in the same line because it is again the same begin of line. Now since I have covered 12 positions already, since my first push button was at the second and the 10 next characters, so the new push button is going to be after 12th position on the same line. So at this time I'm going to say 12th, and then I would make a bracket to tell the system that from 12th position the next 10 character position again is going to be taken by my second push button. and then the rest of the command is same, text 004, and then the command is CL2. That means if you have pressed the second push button, the command would be considered as CL2, and then you would say end of line, and then just activate it as you're doing with the rest of the things. So once you activate it, you have created a push button. Now I want some text also to be displayed, so I would just double click and go on to a text symbol page, and I would say button 1 or whatever you want on your first button to be named. I want just button 1, and text 004 was for button 2, so I would say button 2 this time, and then save it, and don't forget to activate it because it is a different entity altogether. So I've activated it, and now I'm coming back to the program and then activate the main program as well. After activation, you can run it and you would see your 2 buttons. So now as you can see on your screen, that button 1 is after 2 spaces on the selection screen, and button 2 is right after the 12th position. I have not given any gap. In the program I had 2 and 10, and then immediately after 12th the second button was starting, and so it is like button 1 and button 2. So you can click on them, you can do anything. So as you can see over here, that what I mentioned was 2 and 10, and then 12 and 10, so they are both together. So this kind of summarizes how you create a push button using your ABAP codes. There are a few more options of creation of buttons and actions which generally people use, and those are by module pool programming. So we'll learn module pool programming in the other series, but here we are just learning how to create buttons using ABAP. So the next thing you probably want to learn is a drop box. So let's just see how can you create a drop box, and that would probably summarizes everything that you see generally on the selection screen. So to create a drop box, drop box is called as a list box in ABAP. So you can just write list box, and since it is an input field, it would again have a keyword called parameters, and parameter you can say p_list, and then again as is the keyword, and then as list box is what you write to get a list box. It is just damn simple. It is just a normal English. So you would say parameter p_list is what my name is, and then I would say again a keyword as list box. But you have to remember one thing when you are creating a list box. When you say as list box, there is one very important thing that you always have to mention, and that is the visible length, because this is something you might have a drop down for a sentence for like 50 character word, but still you want only 10 characters out of it to be visible as in terms of list box. Once you click down, then you have a whole list which has a whole length of word, but you want that you get that drop down to be of just 10 character. So you have to specify. If you don't specify, you will get an error message. So for list box, you need to tell the system that the visible length is this much. So I'm saying 10 as my visible length, and then all you need to do is just activate it and run it. So this will give you a list box option which has a drop down. Now how to fill the values into it, it would be from your programming. So we will learn filling up the list box in our actions series, the events series, but for that you need to get into the program which is our next chapter. Just activate it and run it, and you would see a p_list as a list box.